that there are many ways to show your love. But what if you want to send that special someone something as unique as they are? When nothing else will do this Valentine's Day, why not send them a box of chocolate-covered hearts with the I can't believe it's not chocolate box? With our unique recipe, you will be able to convince the recipient of our anatomically shaped box of treats that they are actually consuming chocolate. Only you will know the real secret ingredient, which is you. With our special chemical process, we're able to use a pint of your own blood to create the most decadent and unique box of treats that come from the heart, quite literally. Our scientists have nailed down the process so clever that no one will ever be able to tell they aren't eating real chocolate. We won't tell if you don't. Just smile when they ask you why it's called I can't believe it's not chocolate, and take that special ingredient to your grave. Order now for a 30% discount and we'll use blood we have on hand. Perfect for those procrastinators out there. Send a box of you today. This is a fake ad for a fake product on a horror-themed podcast. We do not condone nor endorse using blood to make confections.
Welcome to a very special Valentine's Day edition of Terror in Tandem, a podcast about finding love in the macabre. Brought to you by the lovable and extra lovable Laura and Richard Mathiasen. Each episode, we discuss the horror genre, from books to film to TV and beyond. Sometimes even from the beyond. You can sexily find us online at terrorintandem.com or on Instagram at terrorintandem.
Hi!
Hey, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day to you.
Enjoyable VD to everyone.
I got you a present.
What? For real?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm going to host this episode with you.
Oh,
Happy Valentine's.
How'd you know? How did you know?
Well, we thought that we would give all of you lovers out there some horror movie recommendations to snuggle up to. Ooh. Ones that talk about love, that have love as a backdrop, that maybe interpret love in a really strange way.
It's something we're calling
My Bloody Valentine.
Exactly. I wanted to go with Tainted Love, everyone. Just putting it out there. Tainted Love. Maybe next year.
Yeah, Tainted Love on My Bloody Valentine.
Wonderful. Yeah, we're going to be getting into the softer side of things. Not necessarily. There's some of these things are still pretty nasty. But this will be a little quickie because we want you all to snuggle up with your loved ones and watch something truly horrifying together.
And that could just be you out there, solo, alone. And maybe you want to watch a horror movie on Valentine's Day.
Be your own loved one. Yeah. Honestly.
Be mine.
Yeah. We love you.
Be me, myself, and I.
Exactly.
So we're going to run through 10 movies you can watch on this St. Valentine's Day.
The most horrifying day of the year.
So I'll start with Bram Stoker's Dracula.
You stinker. That's a great choice, by the way.
So from 1992, starring Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, Keanu Reeves, and Anthony Hopkins, and directed by Francis Ford Coppola.
Yes.
So essentially at its core, I mean, this is a book written by Bram Stoker way back in the day. So this is essentially about the love of, Count Dracula's life forever.
Well, it's
Elizabetta.
And his fixation with what he perceives to be the reincarnation in Mina Harker.
Yes, so he believes Winona Ryder has been reincarnated as his immortal beloved.
And honestly, how can you not? Oh, good Gary Oldman reference.
Thank you.
That was awesome. But how can you not fall in love with Winona Ryder? She's...
And he can't... Basically, it's... he can't have enough blood to get over his heartbreak.
I will say that of the many adaptations of Dracula, the 1992 Francis Ford Coppola version, I think, leans most heavily into the romance.
Yes.
It's at once one of the more faithful adaptations of the novel in many ways. At the same time, it really hypes up the romance in a way that's not quite in the book.
Yeah, there's also like a couple of complicated love or like attraction romance moments here. Jonathan Harker, played by Keanu Reeves, is betrothed to Mina Harker.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to the lust side of things, he does get trapped by Dracula's concubines for a while, one of whom was a young Monica Bellucci in an early movie role.
But Jonathan Harker, also has an odd, fascination, attraction to the Count himself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, he's compelling not only to Mina but to anyone he really wants to charm. He's a Svengali.
But it's essentially Winona Ryder's character moving from this shy, innocent, betrothed woman to a longing, lustful, like conduit.
It's very classic
to
Victorian.
Gary Oldman.
Very classic Victorian horror in that the scariest possible thing would be for a woman to express her sexuality.
Right.
So, yeah. Hey, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Good one. I'm going to kick it off with a little bit of a lighter tone. I'm talking 2004's Shaun of the Dead.
Oh,
directed
awesome.
by the brilliant Edgar Wright. Now, it at the time was marketed as the first rom-zom-com. It's not the last one. There have been more since then, but I do believe it may have been the first. So it's just classic Simon Pegg, Edgar Wright, and Nick Frost collaboration. The three of them did Spaced together. They did Hot Fuzz together. And there's just a lot of heart, a lot of goofy humor. It's a tearjerker at times. It tugs at the heartstrings. It's got a fun, kind of happy ending. Essentially, it's just about a mediocre guy doing his best, trying to brave the end of the world to get to his girlfriend, who he's honestly has let down.
Yes.
And he knows it. So it's the backdrop of the end of the world and this man realizing what a crummy boyfriend he's been and trying to do better.
And sometimes it just takes the end of the world to get those crummy boyfriends,
especially for men. Yeah, we're a little slow on the uptake, but Shaun of the Dead is at its heart, it is a love story. There's also the magnificent friendship between Simon Pegg and Nick Frost in the movie,
which is a special kind of love right there.
Absolutely.
So it not only
brotherly
talks
love,
about romantic love, but friendship love,
and the lengths they go to for each other. I mean, it's even his step parents.
Yes,
his stepfather, played by Bill Nighy, has a moment of redemptive sacrifice.
Yeah.
And that's love. That's all over this movie. But
love is what wins against the apocalypse.
It is. It's also just a cracking good time.
It is. It's really fun.
Fun movie. And now I was fortunate enough to be living in England when this came out, and I had just watched both series of Spaced. So I was like a over the moon Edgar Wright fan at that point. And watching this in London when it came out was really fun because people responded really well to this movie. It was just like, I think lose track of that as Americans sometimes, that when another country has an international smash hit, it often becomes a point of national pride. Mm-hmm. Like, look, the whole world is watching our movie. And it was fun to be there
Cool
when it came out.
To this day is still a point of pride.
Should be. That's a great movie.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, my next one is Let the Right One In or Let Me In, whichever one. Do you want to read subtitles or not? It's up to you.
Or, in my opinion, the better version would be Let the Right One In.
Yeah, but it really depends on what you're in the mood for.
I think I would recommend to everyone to go back and listen to our Make Remake episode.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not going to go too deep into this.
I'm shameless.
One came out in Let the Right One In came out in 2008. Let Me In came out in 2010. And there actually is a current series on streaming.
Just got canceled.
Yeah, but it's still there.
Yeah,
first
does
season.
have a season. Yeah. On Showtime, I think.
So it's about a vampire child who meets a shy neighborhood boy. And, things happen. we did deep dive on this, so I'm not going to go too much. But there is essentially a very innocent and protective love story that emerges from this between the two characters.
You know,
well, who can be trusted is the question.
It's also a movie that maybe forces you to alter your definition and conception of what love is.
Yeah. And
maybe
also
love doesn't look like what you think it does.
The father figure.
Yeah. Right?
Also
that's
what's love and what's obligation and how do
what's
those
obsession?
cross over?
Yeah.
Correct.
It's a complicated film. It's an all-time greatest. Let the right one in.
And it's really atmospheric, and it's honestly kind of a perfect cold February.
Oh yes,
watch.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like winter horror, for sure. Coming out of Sweden, obviously, but it's a good wintertime watch. Awesome. You're right about that.
So check those out, or one.
Well, my next one is for all you lonely, successful businessmen out there thinking about finding a wife by putting an ad in the paper. I'd like to recommend Takashi Miike's 1999 masterpiece, Audition.
Wow, this is not for the faint at heart.
Yeah, trigger warning. This is for our more hardcore fans.
Yeah.
Now, Takashi Miike
Maybe you have a recent breakup or something.
He's an extremely prolific director, and he is one of my favorites. He's done more movies than a human being should be able to do, and the crazy part is more of them are good than not. It's like he did Ichi the Killer, then he did a remake of Zatoichi, the Blind Swordsman. Like he's all over the place. He's making period samurai films, he's making modern day Yakuza action movies, and then he's making very intense, very difficult to watch at times horror movies like Audition. Now, Audition, as I mentioned briefly, it's about a successful middle-aged businessman who gets advice from a friend to put an ad in the paper looking for the perfect woman, and it's just as cringy as it sounds. That being said, I'm not sure he deserves everything that happens to him in this movie. His crime seems to be largely that he's just a clueless dip of a guy. But he meets more than his match in Asami, who answers his ad and at first seems like the perfect, docile, quiet wife who will do what you want and not make a fuss. And then come the acupuncture needles. So let's just say this movie contains a lot of series of torture and the clever application of acupuncture needles in places perhaps they shouldn't go. All of that is to say, this is one of Miike's best films. He tends to be very excessive and over the top. This is a very tight, mostly single location. It does take place in other places, but a lot of the action takes place in this guy's apartment or house. It's a taut thriller.
Make you look at piano strings. Very different.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to lie. It's a tough watch.
It is.
It's graphic, and it is... Takashi Miike does not shy the camera away. He makes you watch it all.
And even when you close your eyes, there's sounds that...
Yes. Now,
penetrate.
Asami is an incredibly frightening villain because she is a beautiful... delicate, small woman in this film. She's not physically intimidating, and yet she dominates this man and is the methodical nature of her the way her rage manifests is scarier to me than someone going on like a berserker rage.
This isn't a romantic night in movie.
Says you. Audition. It's in Japanese, everybody, and it's worth it.
My next is Warm Bodies from 2013.
Oh, yeah.
Starring Nicholas Hoult and Teresa Palmer and John Malkovich.
And we do love Nicholas Hoult around these parts.
And it's screenplay and directed by Jonathan Levine. So it's a star-crossed lover's tale. It's a play on Romeo and Juliet. Her name is Julie and his name is R. And it's a zombie movie. So they combine. So star-crossed lovers and zombie movie.
Yeah.
They go together and there's horror and humor. So R, played by Nicholas Hoult, is a zombie. And he has the love needs, though. He needs comfort. He needs affection.
We all do.
And he meets Julie, and Julie's the daughter of a military man whose sole job is to organize attacks against the zombie population. And so Julie and R start a relationship. And it actually starts his heart beating again.
I mean, it's an adorable movie.
It is. It's a sweet take on a zombie movie. And
Nicholas Hoult is he's incredibly charming.
A quirky, dark take on Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a dark tale anyway.
It's actually a pretty good flick. It's breezy. It's nice. It's fun. It's horror, but it's not like,
It
what
would
I
fit
just
in
recommended.
the horror comedy category.
I agree. And like I said, it's a great
heartwarming.
cast. And anyone who, obviously anyone who's ever seen Day of the Dead knows that, Bub the Zombie wasn't a bad zombie. So maybe there are a couple zombies out there. You could just be cautious is what I'm saying.
Yeah, check it out.
Be careful. Maybe wear like one of those old neck gorgets that like medieval knights wore.
Warm Bodies is zombies need love too.
They sure do, everybody. Go hug a zombie.
What do you have next?
My next one is, it's just a tale of a lonely guy who misses his mother. And that's Maniac.
Oh, boy.
Now we're talking William Lustig's Maniac from 1980 and Franck Calfoun's 2012 remake, which was also very good. Now, the original Maniac by William Lustig, who directed Maniac Cop, which is a different movie, that stars Joe Spinell. Now, Joe Spinell had like a brief part in Godfather 2, but he's like a sweaty, grimy, dirty, gross, mustachioed New Yorker creep. And in this movie, his mom died in an accident when he was young, and he lives alone, surrounded by a bunch of mannequins. And his mom was a sex worker. So because he misses her so much, he goes out and murders sex workers, scalps them, and puts the scalps on the mannequins that he lives with.
Oh.
Now, this movie was quite controversial because it's very graphic, and a lot of it is shot in POV from the killer's point of view.
So all of your movies are not like romantic date night movies.
This is a horror podcast, right?
I know.
Okay. So Maniac, the original version is from 1980, and it's in New York City. So it's grimy and dirty and sweaty and gross. And it just has that gritty feel to it. And Joe Spinell was a pock-faced character actor. And when he's in the POV, and it's from his point of view, you hear his heavy breathing and his, it's very intimate. It really forces the audience to step into the shoes of a irredeemable murderer. So that made people pretty uncomfortable. Now, the 2012 remake with Elijah Wood is also fantastic. Very different vibe. A lot of the same style, same basic story, same POV shots. But let's just say that Elijah Wood is a lot different, has a very different physicality from Joe Spinell. So he plays the character of Frank like this sort of timid, little, skinny, lonely guy who is surprisingly capable of very nasty things. Like when you look at Joe Spinell in Maniac, you're like, yeah, that guy probably kills women. But when you look at Elijah Wood, he looks like Elijah Wood. And then he does terrible things. And I just put an aside, Elijah Wood rules. That guy,
Big fan.
I am such a huge fan of his, especially after Lord of the Rings, when he's basically like, I'm just going to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
I have enough money to like never work again. So I'm going to keep making weird movies that I want to make.
The skit, the I Threw It on the Ground skit.
Oh my
from
God.
Saturday Night Live.
Where he's tasing Andy Samberg in the butt.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Just the evil on his face.
And you could
great.
just tell like Elijah Wood is like, yeah, shit, I'll do that.
Yeah,
Well, fine.
exactly.
Sounds great. He seems like, anyway, Maniac is fantastic. Another trigger warning. It is extremely gory.
Yeah, this isn't. Listen, Richard's recommendations are not for people that are actually in relationships.
I'm for the freaks. She's for the geeks.
Yeah. My next is Life After Beth.
Oh, with Aubrey Plaza,
Yes,
right?
from
Yeah,
2014,
yeah.
starring Aubrey Plaza,
Oh.
Dane DeHaan, and John C. Reilly and Molly Shannon. And
That's a hell of a cast.
I know. And also, there's other people in there as well.
Other people, you say?
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's written and directed by Jeff Bania, and he is actually married to Aubrey Plaza.
No shit.
Yep. He
Huh.
wrote I Heart Huckabees.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that movie.
Me too.
That's like one of my favorite David O. Russells, despite his horribleness.
Yeah. And Horse Girl, which is like a newer movie with
Oh, I have to check that
Allison
out.
Brie.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize
wrote this
how
too.
I'm a big fan of this person I just heard about.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
Zach is played by Dane DeHaan, and he loses the love of his life, Aubrey Plaza, Beth. He goes to visit her grave and sees that there's a big hole in the ground. Then he goes to her parents' house, and they have created her a zombie. They've resurrected her as a zombie.
As
and
you
they
do.
have her living in the house and giving her, human flesh. But
So these are not boomer parents.
No, those parents are played by John C. Reilly and Molly Shannon, though.
I'm
which
just
is
gonna
why
say,
I brought
like,
them up.
boomer parents are like, as soon as you're 18, you're out. And Gen X parents are like, we will resurrect you to have you move back in with us.
So her hunger becomes way too much, and then she turns really into a rage zombie.
Yeah.
And she
Really
starts to
well cast.
decompose.
Yeah.
And so it's really about what lengths Zach will go through for her, to keep her satiated and satisfied.
Yeah.
And what the parental love when they lose a child, what they'll go to.
Sure.
But it's also really funny and dark humor.
Yeah.
So it's really about someone special that you really can't live without.
Listen, love destroys rationality. It just does. The things that you do for love, you wouldn't do for any other emotion.
One of the funniest parts are they argue. Beth and Zach argue about what to have for dinner, and obviously she
People.
just wants flesh.
Yeah.
Flesh, and he's like, well, what about a nice chicken? So it's really great. It's
Yeah.
silly. It's an easy watch.
Yeah.
It's not going to make your spouse want to divorce you if they're not into horror.
Yeah. Now,
Like all of Richard's recommendations.
I can help with that. So now that you've made friends with your nice movies, I will help you lose them with your freak movies. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I'm pretty sure I did a bit of a dive on it in another episode, but I'm going to mention Lucky McKee's 2002 masterpiece, May, starring Angela Bettis. And my God, I am going to say it again. Why is Angela Bettis not a bigger deal? She is so awesome. Now, this is definitely, I would say, her best role. Long story short, May is, she suffers from cross-eyes, or I don't know what the proper term for that is, honestly. And I feel
Googly
like cross-eyes, goodness, I'm trying to be nicer. Well, she suffers from a birth defect where her eyes are pointed in directions they shouldn't be. Now, that causes her to be bullied and tortured and blah, blah, blah. She gets corrective surgery as an adult, and lo and behold, everyone realizes, oh, you're Angela Bettis. You're actually beautiful. She's a very talented craftsperson, and she also has she's very socially stunted. So she becomes obsessed with people, but not all of them. She sees people kind of like dolls, so she becomes obsessed with Jeremy Sisto's hands. She becomes obsessed with, body parts of her friends. And, when it all comes to a head and May eventually loses her mind, she starts collecting and harvesting on Halloween night. So it is quite an ending. It has one of my favorite last moments in a horror movie. It's melancholy and bittersweet and strange. But May is a story about love gone too far. It's, what not real love, what somebody who has never known love and who can't control their levels of extremity, what they might think love is. Because what May displays in this movie is not love, it's obsession.
Yeah.
But she thinks it's love.
It's called strabismus.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
strabismus.
I apologize if I offended anyone, but now I know the word for it.
Well, now we've got it straight.
Oh, goodness.
My last is Ready or Not from 2019.
Yay.
For all you newly engaged and wanting to get married, this is a perfect, how will the wedding and reception turn out? How is it going to be when you are part of a new family? It's starring Samara Weaving and Adam Brody and Andy McDowell, and it's directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette, and they're the team from the newest Scream iterations.
Yes.
So they are directing the new Scream movies as
They
well.
are hot
They're a
commodities.
great team. Yeah.
They came up doing anthologies. They did Southbound, I think, was their real breakout.
They're great.
They are great.
This movie's great. So Grace, played by Samara Weaving, just married the man of her dreams, and he is the heir to the Ladomos family board game empire. And then immediately following the wedding ceremony, I mean, she's still in her wedding dress.
Yeah. It's like that night.
Her new husband reveals that his family take part in this tradition that the bride needs to draw a card from the game deck, which will determine what game the entire family will play. And she picks hide and seek. And what she soon realizes is it is to the death.
Yeah, it's more a game of assassin than hide and seek.
And survival. So crossbows, axes, guns.
Oh, yeah. And
they're all her wedding
she
gifts.
mentioned she's marrying into this super wealthy, bougie douchebag family.
Yeah, board game empire.
Yeah. Oh, the Martin Scorsese show.
Yeah. And it's a horror comedy, but I would say that it is not as funny as it is dark.
Oh, it has its moments. I mean, Samara Weaving is an all-time final girl in this movie. She is.
She's so great, and it's a takedown of the wealthy. It's a social commentary on marriage and what it means to marry into a family. And honestly, if you're newly broken up, I think this would be a really great watch.
Yeah, it's it's a lot of it's like it's a cheer movie. Like you at certain points in the movie you really want to just stand up and go, yeah.
Yes. I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun, and Samara Weaving, she is meant to and does carry this movie.
It's also got Henry Cerny from Mission Impossible, and he plays the dad.
Oh, he's in a ton of stuff.
Yeah, and
For
Christian Brune from
fans
Orphan Black is in it.
What was that show? Revenge.
Revenge, right. Did I say Redemption? I think I just said Redemption. That's what I was thinking anyway. Did I think it or did I say it? Where am I?
What's your last one?
Oh, right. So I'm going to cap off my undeniably romantic list that no one can argue with Possession.
I'm not watching any of these.
With Possession. Possession from 1981, Andrzej Zulawski's Polish masterpiece. Now,
so I don't know. Sorry, just as an aside here, you can obviously see a theme here. If you had to choose, who is the more romantic of the two?
Obviously, it's me.
How do you express your love?
Beautifully.
You're like obsession to the death.
Yeah. So Possession, the reason I am mentioning Possession is because you can't talk about love without the death of love. Because sometimes love does not last. And that is certainly the case in Possession, which is a very strange, surreal at times Lovecraftian descent into madness that centers around the dissolution of Sam Neill and Isabella Gianni's marriage. Now, they live in Berlin, and Isabella Gianni just starts behaving erratically, strangely. She disappears for a time. She doesn't explain her behavior. At times, their marriage is very passionate. At other times, it's very cold. It's all allegorical, but there are moments of pure body horror in this movie. There's a scene, especially in the subway, that just shows what a force of nature Isabella Gianni was as an actor. I mean, not to mention that she is one of the most beautiful actors I think that's ever worked. But she is incredible in this movie, and it's at its heart a very sad tale of love slipping away. I mean, there's horror, there's murder, there's tentacles, there's juice, but divorce is not a quick thing. It's a slow death, and it's one that everyone sees coming, and it's one that usually takes a while. And I think that's the kind of story about this movie, is that the death of love is usually not a quick or quiet one. And it certainly isn't in this movie. But listen, Possession is just a masterpiece all around for cinephiles, horror fans, or otherwise, because you can make the argument, I suppose, if you wanted to, that it's not a straight-up horror movie. You'd be wrong, but you could. Anyway, 1981's Possession. It's maybe the most romantic movie I've ever seen.
Watch it with the one you are soon to be out of love with.
Yeah, and then get all sorts of ideas of what to do with tentacles.
If you don't have them already.
I'm sure you're thinking of them now.
So whatever you decide to do on this Valentine's Day, we hope that you find happiness and comfort.
Yeah.
And don't get any strange ideas.
And honestly, don't feel pressured by the bullshit. It's just a day. Love yourself.
There's lots of other things you can do.
Yeah.
We just gave you 10 of them.
Exactly. So what's your excuse?
We love you.
We do.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
A blessed VD to you all.
Terror in Tandem is written, produced, and recorded by Laura and Richard Mathiasen, and edited and mixed by Richard Mathiasen. Our theme was written and performed by Carrie Denver, and all other music was written and performed by David Hispanic. All opinions expressed on this podcast are our own and should be taken as such. Thanks for listening, and please remember to give us a like, a review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. We're sad.